Ooh! What's up, boys? Welcome to my first ever poker vlog. Yep, this is my humble attempt at creating a poker vlog similar to you know, kind of like an Andrew Nemi or Brad Owen kind of style of poker vlog. So I'm just gonna try and take you guys through my my session today and kind of go from there. So we are playing a 1-1 game at JC's house. He's a good friend of mine, and we are going to be playing, I think it's 7 or 8-handed, I think. And yeah, hopefully we run good, we play good. Part of the reason why I wanted to start this vlogging for fun is just to see how actually difficult it is to one, edit a poker vlog, and two, kind of put into words like what I am thinking during each hand. So I thought maybe putting a vlog together would be fun and could kind of trigger my critical thinking senses, which might not usually be triggered, and also for me to focus more on the poker game, because usually I'm always on my phone and shit, so I'm trying not to do that. Yeah, today's game I think it should be relatively friendly. Everyone there is good friends and we don't really have any ops, so I think it's fine. I was running a bit late. The game started at 9, it's about 9:30 or 9:40 now. So I'm driving over, it's a 5-minute drive and then we'll be there. See you guys there. Alright boys, just parked. I'm walking over now. Yeah, so just a bit of my current run of form. I have been down quite a bit actually. In the last 4 or 5 sessions, I feel like I've lost maybe 10% of my bankroll, which is not ideal. But we just came off a big W, not big, medium-sized W in the Manila Casino Ventures, where we played like I think 2 or 3 sessions. Made a couple of hundreds, so hoping to build off that today. Yep, as you can see, it's the block. Yep, here we go. No, mate, I'm making a serious poker vlog. Like serious, with hand analysis and shit. So far. Yeah, I'm being serious. I'm actually being serious. As you guys heard, there are some haters on the table who don't believe that I'm actually making a poker vlog, but yeah, I whipped out my notebook, my pen, my phone stand and everything, and here we go, baby. Wait, why? Fuck lah, nobody's gonna see this, bro. There's only like 5 people watching my YouTube. As y'all can see, Max is extremely scared that his boyfriend will see this video, so yeah, just please do not share this video with anybody. Without further ado, let's start poker. So at this point it's about 10:03 PM. We're about an hour late into the session because we came late, but yeah, this is our first hand of the day. We run a bit dry in NLH. We finally pick up a hand in a PLO double bomb pot. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, everyone starts with 5 cards. There's no pre-flop action and we go straight to the flop. My hand is not that good. It's we have 2 spades and 2 hearts, and yeah, we have a pair of 5s. Not the best, but you know, let's see a flop. Yeah, so as you can see at JC's house, we play a double bomb pot format where we see 2 flops, 2 turns, 2 rivers. In this case, we don't actually flop that good. Our board 1, we don't have anything much except some backdoor flush draws. Yeah, so that's pretty insignificant. Our board 2, we actually have a second nut flush draw, which is decent. You know, in a bomb pot game, you ideally try to make the nuts because everyone has 5 cards, and thus it's pretty hard to win unless you really have the nuts. JC is he's in the button here. It checks around to him and he bets pot, which is $21. I'm in middle position and I just smooth call along with one other caller. So the turn is a good one for us. In board 1 we don't really get anything. We get 10 of diamonds past the board. It's pretty inconsequential for us. In board 2 we actually turn the nuts because the ace of spades comes around. Obviously that's pretty good for us. Feeling quite confident at this point. The turn action is it checks around the JC on the button. He actually jams. He's pretty short behind, only 36 behind. June calls in early position. And in middle position, I elect to shove all ineffective for about 150. I started my stack with about 200, so there was not much behind. In this case, my thinking for shoving is mainly to put pressure on any kinds of hands that Jun might have on board 1, which might be not the nuts, so any kind of middling strength hand, in order to force just a heads up with JC, even though he's already jammed. Of course, in hindsight, I think there's merit to calling as well, but I just don't think that Jun has too much bluffs on the river, just because bluffs are not of very high frequency in bomb pots. So might be slightly of an overjab or overplay, but I think with the nuts locked on the second board, there's no reason to risk getting, if he does have like a set and he rivers a house, then obviously that would not be ideal for us. Jun surprisingly calls our all-in of 150, and yeah, we go to a river. So the river runs out cleanly for us. We don't care about the first board because we're not playing that. We have absolutely nothing. On the second board, you can see we actually see the Queen of Diamonds, which is very good for us. Does not pair the board. We have the nuts on the second board, and let's see what the opponents have. Okay, you can see over here that JC actually flopped a bottom set on the first board. He turns a full house, and obviously it locks up that board. Jun doesn't have much. He just has a third nut flush on the bottom board, which obviously I take him out. So we do manage to take the side pot with Jun, but yeah, I chopped the main pot with JC. I end up chopping the side pot as well with Jun for the rest of my shove because of he takes the top board with 9s. I end up profiting not that much, maybe like 50 at most. So an hour goes by until I pick up the best starting hand in poker, which is pocket aces, 2 red aces. However, as you heard the man, I'm up against a very formidable opponent called Kello. He's very notorious for his extremely large bet sizing and betting patterns that don't really make sense, as well as his classical rainbow straddle, which includes straddling 1 chip of every color pre-flop up to, some say, about $130. I'm in middle position here and it limps around to me with the straddle on, of course. I choose the pre-flop raise to about $20. The straddle was about $5. And we see plenty of callers. We see about 5 callers all trying to take my money. The flop runs out 2-7-4 with 2 spades, which is not too bad. It doesn't hit my pre-flop betting range, of course, but I still have full intentions to bet out from middle position, seeing that there are 5 callers, and we can still get value from any kind of 1 pair hands, and also push out any kind of potential straight or flush draws. So before the action gets around to me in middle position, Mr. Notorious Kello actually donks a massive $60, which is about 2/3 pot, as a donk bet, which is pretty strange. I'm thinking at this point it's one of either 2 things. Either he's a massive fish, or he's trying to use his perceived range advantage as a pre-flop caller to try and donk it to me and take it down before I can even bet out any money. So at this point is where I feel like I made my first mistake of the session. I like to jam into him for, I only have 83 more behind, so that's a total of 143. And I feel like this is a pretty bad move in retrospect, because I think this just kind of bets out any of his potential semi-bluffs or bluffs, which could give me more value on future streets on the turn and river. And I think this is something that I need to definitely work on, which is kind of not overplaying any of my my high pocket pairs, because it tends to lose out a lot of value in future streets, even if that means that once in a while I might get cooler from a bad runner or whatnot. So as you can hear in the following audio clip, Kello reads my soul, puts me on an overpair and folds. Thankfully I do take it down and I profit about $140, $150 in that hand. I put this guy in a tank. What are you thinking, Kello?
I'm thinking you might have jacks or queens.
60, 140. Is that good?
Of course you're good.
That's good.
But if you have 6, you're not good. 6s. I've already called it 7 years ago.
It's a good read.
He came as a top pair.
That is a good read.
I'll have to fold that.
Full pressure, bro.
I'll fold.
Mark, what do you have? I got a best hand.
Run
Run
it.
it.
7!
Was this a setup?
Brother, I got 1-7. 7!
Was this a setup hand?
Oh,
Wow.
maybe I should have jammed.
I reverse the flush.
So literally in the very next hand, just as I was about to take my notebook and write notes for my aces hand, I get another playable hand in pocket 9s. I'm in under the gun +1 position. Kello straddles $2 on my right. This game plays pretty big. The pre-flop raise for a 1-1 goes up to $10 to $15. I choose to raise to only 12 here, which I feel in retrospect is slightly small. I should have gone at least 15 to 18, seeing that there is a straddle going on and I'm in early position. So JC calls my raise of $12 in the button, and then it goes back around to Kello, who chooses to raise 3-bet me to $32 on the straddle. In this case, I feel like he could be doing this with a wide range of hands, especially because he's such an aggressive player. I choose to just flat $32 here. There is a case for 4-betting, of course, but I feel like because I have position on him and I feel like I can navigate pretty well post flop, especially in position, I elect to just call. JC also calls behind for 32 more. So they say there's a 1 in 8 chance of flopping a set, which I feel like is complete nonsense because I don't ever flop sets. Until now, where we see a 9 queen jack flop with 2 diamonds, we flop bottom set, which is a pretty good sight to behold. But of course the board is pretty connected and we have threats of flush and straight draw possibilities, so we do have to navigate this pretty carefully. Kello surprisingly checks his option, and when it's on me, I decide to bet about 2/3 pot. I bet about $73 into a pot about 110. JC on the button, he has about 240 effective and he chooses to shove into me all in. At this point, Kello folds and the action is back on me to call with about 150. So of course at this point it's kind of a no-brainer, I just have to call. Flopping a set is just way too strong for me to fold, and if he does flop a straight on me, then I will have just no choice but to quit poker. So yep, let's see. So we both reveal our hands and turns out JC has ace jack of diamonds, which is pretty much the most ideal scenario for me because he's either doing that with a draw of some sort or he already has a mate straight or a higher set, which I'm instantly fucked by. We decided to run it twice because we're both a little bit pussy, and yeah, so the first run out I immediately see the diamond in the window of the turn and I get depressed. And on the second run out, fortunately for us, he does brick out and we end up chopping the pot. I don't end up winning that much money. I think I win only about $30 to $40, mainly just chopping out the pre-flop money as well as Kello's juicy money. So about 20 minutes later, I pick up 7-5 of hearts in a small blind, which is not a particularly strong hand, but because it's suited and connected, it's a pretty decent candidate to make flush and straight combinations post flop. So we see the action limp around. We have about 3 or 4 limpers until Kello chooses to raise to $12 in the button, which is not actually a very big sizing considering the fact that there were a few limpers and already some dead money in the pot. So I'm the very next person to act in this case because Kello is on my right, and I choose to call the $12, which I don't think is a super strong play because it leaves me vulnerable to a 3-bet squeeze by a player in a later position. But you don't always make the best play, so I call. We see 4 other degenerate callers after us, and we go to see a flop 6 ways. So we go to a flop of 8-3-5 with 2 clubs. Actually a pretty good flop for me. We have a middle pair with a backdoor hard draw. But the action actually checks around, and even Kello checks as well as the pre-flop aggressor. I feel like this is quite a standard play because a board like that does not really connect with his pre-flop range. And of course it's difficult to c-bet and get through 5 other players. Alright, now we move to a turn card, which is an absolutely beautiful turn card of 5 of spades. which is exactly what I wanted. At this point I'm pretty confident that I have the best hand here. Flopping trips in this situation, especially with no completed flush draw, is pretty strong. I like to check because there's so many people behind me and I'm sure that at least one of them will take a stab. Sure enough, Max in middle position, he chooses to bet 20. And Jun, who is right after him, he chooses to call. So in this case, I feel like both calling and 3-betting make some amount of sense. Calling is definitely feasible, as I will allow the opponents to have another opportunity to bluff if hopefully the river is a blank card. But in this case, I like to raise because I feel like the board is pretty wet with 2 clubs on the board as well as some straight draw possibilities. And I choose to raise 4x into them, which is about $80. So by raising here, I feel like I am still trying to get value from any kind of non-believing top pair like a Ace-8, 7-8, 9-8 kind of hand, or even some kind of non-believing club draws that refuse to fold on the turn. So Max in middle position chooses to fold, and the only one left in the hand is Jun. And he's slightly in the tank. He asked me how much I have behind, which I said 150. And at least at this point, it indicates that he's somewhat considering calling, which is good news for me. Until I make the fishiest move in human history. I was kind of looking at something else, I think the TV screen, and then I thought he decided to fold, which I then proceeded to table my hand, showing the absolute nuts of trip 5s. And yeah, I have no idea why I did that. Actually I do, so let's look at the video.
Okay, why you push back?
Oh, sorry. I have a 5 life. So as you guys heard, Jun said like why you push back, which means, I mean, I thought that he meant that why did I push my chips back since I already won the pot. So then I proceeded to table my trip 5s. And then yeah, Kylo proceeds to say like, hey, the hand is not over, which I then realized that I messed up. But I didn't manage to record that because, you know, at that point I thought the hand was over, so I cut the video. You can even see me raising my camera and like pointing at the board because that's what I do at the end of the hand to record it, right? Yeah, so I don't actually end up finding out what Jun had. I don't feel like he would have called me because I feel like me raising there is a little bit too strong, and in retrospect I should be doing that also with more bluffs, such as any kind of club draw or potentially a up down straight draw or whatnot. So yeah, definitely not my finest moment. I feel like an absolute fish, and who knows, maybe I lost value. But we go again, boys, you know what I'm saying? Alright, before we go into our next hand, we have a quick commercial break and it's time for the guest hand of the day. So today we're gonna sweat with Mr. Kello on our right. Let's see what he has.
Then I will just play.
Alright, guest performance!
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Kello.
Wait, if you look at his hand, then you look at your hand, how can?
Exactly.
Folding.
Raise.
You're folding? You tell me now.
I'm raising.
Okay, he's raising.
Yeah.
He's starting to strength. Can we see?
No, I haven't seen
Oh, you're
it.
going blind.
I see for you.
No,
He's going blind. No, he's going
No,
blind.
we see, you don't see.
He's going blind.
No, we want the block to see.
Later, block will see.
Oh, this chobu.
Yeah, bro, there's another one. They
Oh, shit.
changing between these two dealers. My god.
No wonder Rampage lose.
He did very well, bro.
Oh, really? No wonder you win.
Flop.
Whoa.
10 of clubs, 10 of spades, 4 of spades.
Are we feeling?
Let's peel. Oh.
That's not a good sign.
Oh, he's good.
Don't hold me back.
He's good.
Oh, it's on me? Yes. Four.
How much?
Oh, you want?
That's a lot.
You didn't expect that.
Oh, when you change the other dealer.
Oh, then your
The other dealer,
It takes it down with ease. With a stone cold bluff. Alright, and back to our regularly scheduled program. At this point it's about 12 midnight. We run dry for about 30 minutes and our stack dwindles to about 260 or so. We are still up about $60, so it's not too bad, but it all goes downhill from here. And you'll see what. So as you can see here, we get a pretty strong hand here in late position. We get a black non-suited ace king, and we see JC in early position. He raises $20. There are 2 callers after before it becomes my turn, and I choose to 3-bet to a big $100. Reason for this is because ace king is a very strong hand that I'm going to be 3-betting a large percentage of the time with. And with so much dead money inside, with already $60 in the pot, I feel that raising a larger size will give me a higher chance of taking it out without any contest. But then in this case, Zhongjun actually decides to call my bet on the button, cold call with $100. And the initial raiser, JC, also chooses to call the $100. At this point, alarm bells are kind of going off because JC is a rather tight player with a very narrow pre-flop range. So the fact that he could call a bet of $100 is pretty alarming. At this point, I have to put him on something strong, such as an ace queen, ace king, or even high pocket pairs like queens, kings, and aces. So at this point, the pot balloons to up to $300+, and my heart is racing pretty fast. I've committed already $100 in, and I'm just praying to every single god at this point that at least an ace or a king comes on the flop, so I can bet comfortably. But of course, it does not. We see a 10-4-3 flop with 2 spades. And at this point, the action checks to me, and I have two options. I can either continue c-betting, representing high pocket pairs like kings and aces, or I can check, one to pot control, as well as to see what develops on the turn. At this point, I end up deciding on a check, with the main reason being that my stack behind only has about $160, which is about a half pot bet. So basically, I will not be able to bet anything smaller than that, because if I bet about $60 or $70, it's a bet that's much smaller than the pot, and I'm basically committing the rest of the stack, because if I get shoved after I bet $60, there's no way I can fold with 100 behind. Either that, or I choose to shove, which is also scary because at this point I put JC on probably middle to high pocket pair. The action checks through, and we see a 6 of diamonds on the turn, which does not help us at all. The situation does not really change. I can consider firing on a turn for effectively a shove, but then again the predicament does not change. At this point, it's pretty boring. The action checks through all the way. Even on the river, we also check through and we see a 9 of diamonds. So in the end, extremely anticlimactically, Zhongjun actually wins on the button. He wins the hand with just pocket deuces. And turns out that JC actually had ace jack of spades for a nut flush draw on the flop. And after the hand we were discussing, he actually told me that he would have shoved into me if I were to bet like a quarter pot small bet on flop. So I guess all in all, usually in this scenario, I feel like applying more pressure even with the flopping unders with ace king is applicable. But against this kind of player type where they are slightly tighter, I feel like it might be a little bit more hard to get away with continual c-bets and aggression.
Just bet one time, let me raise you, ma. Just let me raise you.
I know I'm not getting through, bro. Wait. Hi, my followers. We are mid-game currently.
Ma, I played 5 hands.
Everyone say hi.
I stay 5 hands.
Yeah, unfortunately I'm very card dead. Like, I would love to play more, but I'm card dead currently. We're stuck about, I want to say $50. But don't worry, guys. What? Shit. I'll do more B-roll shots later. Alright, guys. Wish me good luck. Bye bye. So as you guys can hear, the boys are not very pleased that I've only played 5 hands in the last 2 hours. And you know, what can I say? The cards coming have not been good, the flops have not been good, I've been losing a bunch of money. And you know, I'm not trying to play stupid hands and fish out for the vlog. I'm trying to make a profit here and, you know, make my viewers proud, you know what I'm saying? So a while goes by and we finally pick out a playable hand in pocket sevens. We get it in late position. We raise to 12 after it limps around. And we get 3 callers before we go to the flop. So I think you guys are familiar with what they say. The chance of flopping a set is about 1 in 8, which is pretty good, but it can be even better if everyone, all 5 viewers in the chat right now, like up the video for me to flop a set. Ready guys? 3, 2, 1. Boom! Your likes have worked wonders and we flop quintuplet sevens, never seen before in the history of poker, and I'm extremely elated. Until I rub my eyes and I realize that it's actually just an ace king 8 flop with 2 clubs. Unfortunately, we don't really have much here, but in this case I feel like it's compulsory that we continue to represent our pre-flop range and c-bet, since ace and king really hit our pre-flop range. With Daniel, who is relatively tight, as well as June, I believe that it might be possible for me to take it down. I c-bet about half pot, hoping to take it down without any aggression, because anyone who calls me, yeah, it's not going to be good news for me. And yep, it is indeed not good news for me. Daniel, who is next to act, he immediately calls, and Jun folds. So we go to a turn, which comes another ace. At this point, I don't really like seeing the ace, because anything that Daniel calls me with probably likes that card a lot. If he's calling me with an ace, he just hit trips. If he's calling me with king, he just saw another ace, which makes it less likely that I have an ace, which increases his chances of wanting to call me down on further streets. I decide to give up, and I check. The river comes an unhelpful 10, and we end up with nothing but pocket 7s. Daniel, who is first to act, he chooses to bet out, of course, probably for value. He bets out 70. At this point, my stack is too short to do any kind of maneuvering in terms of making some kind of bluff play on the river. So I just end up folding, and some tears form up in my eyes. My run good from the start of the session has ended, and my downswing has began. At this point, I'm stuck about $200 to $300, and my stack is extremely small. I decide to top up my stack for $300 more to make my effective buy-in a total of $500, when I have about $300 currently on my stack. So as an old video clip of some poker in another house plays in the background, I'm going to just briefly run over a couple of hands that occurs throughout the next hour or so. Video is already 26 minutes long, so I'm not trying to extend it too much past, say, 40 minutes. So nearing about 1 AM in the night, we have two occasions where we pick up strong hands such as Queen Jack suited and Ace 10 off, and we raise, of course, in late positions. In both scenarios, we miss the flop. We end up single and double barreling respectively, and getting called down, of course, losing quite a bunch of money. At my very low point, I'm stuck about 400 at about, I would say, 1 or 1:15 AM in the morning. And at this point of time in the night, I'm feeling a bit discouraged, a little bit frustrated just due to the lack of hands and how badly I'm running down some amount of money. And I'm just thinking at this point whether I really want to upload this footage as a vlog. But thankfully towards the last hour things start picking up, and I do actually run it up pretty well. So let's see in these next few hands. So this next hand we play is actually a double board bomb pot hand. And so in JC's house we actually play bomb pots every single orbit. We pick up a very playable Ace Ace King 9 5 hand with 2 spades and 2 clubs with high potential to make the nuts. Of course there is no pre-flop action, and we go straight to a flop. So the flop does not actually disappoint us for once. On the top board we're really strong with top set of aces. To go along with that, we also have the nut flush draw. And on the bottom board we don't have much, but aces always have good potential. And we do have 2 backdoor flush draws in both the club and the spade draw. I choose to check in early position here because I feel like my hand's really strong, but at the same time I feel like there is a good chance that someone in later position would bet, after which I can capitalize and either raise or smooth call and decide from there. The action checks around and we actually see free turn cards for everybody. The top card doesn't really help us. We see a 6 of diamonds. We still have the nut flush draw though. And on the bottom board we see the 2 of spades come around, which also gives us the nut flush spade draw. At this point I decide that I have to bet out. I choose to bet out size of pot, which is about $21. Reason being that I want to get value for my top set against anyone with a stubborn 2 pair perhaps, or even some kind of lower set like 8s or queens. Just a quick note, while recording this I do realize that a lot of the times during bomb pot I feel like I play a little too passively. For example, checking on the flop in that scenario, or sometimes not extracting full value or even exploiting some bluff positions. A good friend of mine in the past, who used to be a pretty proficient poker player, he used to advise to always be aggressive on double board bomb pots, because a lot of time this puts players in very tough positions, especially on later streets where it's more difficult for them to act correctly. Anyway, we see 3 callers to our $21 turn bet, and we go to a river, which is pretty decent on one board. We see the 8 of hearts come out on the river on the top board, which gives us a boat the size of an aircraft carrier. And unfortunately, on the bottom board we do break out our flush draw, so we end up with the absolute nuts on the top board barring any kind of quad 8s, and we actually only have pocket aces on the bottom board. So when it checks to me on the river, it's pretty mindless. It's kind of an obvious play. We definitely have to bet pot again to get maximum value for anyone who is also playing the top board that might be weaker than me. And also I hope to push any kind of middling strength hand such as trip 3s on the bottom board to be pushed out of the hand so we can hopefully scoop the pot. So there is not much action here. It folds around to the last player on my right, who is Kello, and he actually has a pretty strong hand. He tells me that he has a boat on the bottom board. But I think he felt a little bit pitiful for me because I was running really badly, and he told me that, you know, he's gonna just give me a brother fold, and he does lay it down, which I really appreciate. I mean, the reason I shared this hand is not really because of my very spectacular plays or whatnot, because I don't think much happened on this hand. But you know, I feel like this was an important turning point for me, where I picked up some amount of chips and I used this momentum to propel myself forward in the last few hands. So this is the second last hand I'm going to show in this video. At this point I've been running pretty good. I picked up a few hands before this. For example, I had aces where I got 2 streets of value from, and in another hand I actually had king 9 of hearts where it was a multi-way pot and I managed to turn actually the second nut flush, and I got some good amount of value from it by raising it and taking it down. At this point it's about 3:12 in the morning. It's pretty early. Everyone's getting really tired. The second last hand I pick up pocket kings in position in the button. It's an extremely good sight to behold. And what's even better is that Kello on my right in late position, he actually chooses to raise to 13 pre-flop. And this is the perfect position for me to 3-bet, hopefully conveying the image that I'm trying to make a play, which hopefully might incite him to 4-bet and could give us more value. We 3-bet to about 40. This is about 3x the raise of Kello's initial bet. We get 2 callers, but I am in last to act on the button, so that's pretty good. So off to a flop we go. We see a very low flop of 4-4-2 rainbow. And of course I don't think that hits anyone's pre-flop range, especially not mine. But if there's anyone who can hit that board, it might actually be Kello, because he's known for calling with a lot of random hands and getting there when no one expects it. So as expected, it actually checks over to me. And in this case I actually try to do something slightly different, which is to check back. In usual circumstances I'm always c-betting the flop here, almost 100% of the time. Reasons for that being to get value from any other lower pocket pair, or just simply build the pot and hopefully to incite someone to bluff me on the turn or river. By checking the flop I also run the risk of having a hand like ace king or ace queen turning top pair and taking me to Basto land. But if you guys remember in the earlier hand today where I had ace king and flop unders, I also elected to check. And thus with kings as well in this strong position, I have to balance my range and check the board some of the times. The turn is an 8 of hearts, which is pretty decent. We don't mind seeing that. There's still no straights being completed. And what's great is that Zhongjun actually leads out the turn for 50. I think here he took the bait. He thinks that we all are weak with 4-4-2 and he's trying to steal the pot. Surprisingly, we also see Kello on later position call the 50. In this case, I'm deciding between a call or a raise. Of course, we can see there's a flush draw on board, which might be risky if one of them are calling with a flush draw. However, I do feel like calling the turn here might actually be better value in the long run if they were to continue on the river. On the river, we actually see the 5 of diamonds. Thankfully, the flush does not come through. In this case, actually, Zhongjun appears to give up. He checks, and Kello checks as well. In this case, I don't think any of my opponents are very strong. I put at least one of them on a busted backdoor flush draw, and at most the other one on a pair of 8s. So when it checks to me, I choose to lead for about 150, which is about half pot. I'm mainly targeting single pair hands, such as mainly ace 8, queen 8, king 8 type of hands, and maybe an occasional pair of 5s or 2s. Fortunately for me, both opponents actually fold here, and we take down the healthy pot, profiting about 180. So we finally get to the last hand of the day that we play that is significant. This is a double bomb pot hand. Usually in JC's house we play 1 round of double bomb pot at the end of the day when everyone's all tilted in degenerate mode. It's about 3:30 at this point, we're all really tired. And we pick up a pretty decent hand. We get a double flush draw, 2 hearts, 2 spades with a pocket 6s as well. It's not the strongest hand, but you know, you don't really have a choice in double bomb pot. You just get 5 cards, we go to a flop. And the flop we see is nothing to complain about. In the bottom board we actually get middle set, a set of 6s, and we even have a third nut flush draw at the same time with our 2 spades. However, on the top board we pretty much have nothing. We have top pair, which in double board bomb pot words is basically nothing. And there's already a completed flush out there, of which we have 0 diamonds, so we are at this point only playing a single board. So when it checks to me in the under the gun position, I choose to bet out a pot of 40. Currently the pot is 40 because everyone put in $5 pre-flop instead of 3 because it's degenerate hour of the night, and you know, with 8 players we get 40. The reasons I choose to bet pot mainly is to get value from my set of middling sixes, and I want to deny equity from any kind of possible dubs such as 10-3 or 10-6, who could potentially hit another 10 and bolt up on the turn, which would then house over house us. The turn is not the worst for us. We see the 4 of spades come out on the bottom board, which gives us the third nuts with a queen high flush. Of course, we can potentially make a stronger hand on the river if the board was to pair. On the top board, we actually see the 9 of spades come out on the turn, which is not that good for us. We are about as strong as Stephen Hawking in an arm wrestling match, which is not at all. We do have a gutter to the king high straight, which might not even be good if it does come on the river because there's already a completed diamond flush out there. Overall, even the bottom board, I do not really have the nuts anymore, and I'm not favouring my position too much. When it checks to us, I elect to check as well in early position and see what my opponents will do. I'm not really opposed to seeing a free card on the river because if I get the chance to bolt up on the bottom board, then I'll be way more secure and I'll be a lot happier to bet out. On my left, we have Tekkan, who is a renowned fish in this game. Most of the time, everyone comes here to play with Tekkan because he's one of the worst players in the game and he always gives away his money. And so he chooses to bet out $120, which is also pot in this case. We get one more caller, which is June in small blind. He calls 120 as well and it's over to me. At this point, I'm in the blender a little bit because my hand is not exactly very strong. I have absolutely nothing on the top board. Now on the bottom board, I do have the third nuts, but either of them could easily have a stronger flush. For context, in a double board bomb pot where every player has 5 cards, it's a lot easier to make strong hands and even the nuts. And so at this point, even with the third nuts of flush, I'm not exactly sitting really comfortable. And I know this shouldn't be a factor when considering actions in a hand, but at this point of the night, I'm up about $100, nearing the end, and if I were to commit my further $120 on the turn call, if I lose the hand, I'll be down, stuck about $200, and of course that's not good for the vlog, you know what I mean? I'm deep in the tank, sitting there for a minute or so, thinking whether I should fold or call. When I look back at this hand in retrospect, I'm thinking, what am I doing here, because I should be folding. I don't really have anything on the top board, and the bottom board, I've already hit my flush draw, and the only way I can be sure I can win is if I pair the board, which is not likely. I have not many outs to hit a 3, 4, 10 or 6. But then again, what do you know? Hindsight is 20/20, and sometimes in poker, you just make plays based on your gut, and they might not always have the best logic or reasoning behind them. I get a sensing from above that the river is gonna pair. And I'm like, alright, no choice, let me call 120. I grab some chips, I throw it in, and here we go. I'm not really a lucky person. In fact, I feel like I'm always getting super unlucky in life. But I think the reason is because I've been saving all my luck for this moment right here. The bottom river comes the 3 of diamonds, giving us the absolute nuts on the bottom board because we see the 10 of spades on the top board, which means that 3 of the 4 10s have been accounted for, making a set of 10s impossible. I'm having a full hard on at this point because not only did we get the nuts on the bottom board, the 10 on the top board bolts it up as well, which means that any straight or flush on the turn from the opponents might be extremely worried to call a bet now since there is a potential bolt on board. When June checks it over to me, I know there's no way I'm checking as well because I have to apply maximum pressure to my fishy opponents. At this point, I bet pot, which is a massive 450, given that the pot is already ballooned from the bets on the turn and the flop. It's highly unlikely that any opponent has a bolt on the top board, given that 3 10s are already accounted for and I also block a singular queen. At this point, I'm trying to steal the entire pot for myself. I know that the river cannot be comfortable for either opponent because the betting patterns on the flop and the turn indicates there's a high likelihood they probably have a flush or straight. My good friend Tekkan is in visible disgust as he looks at my bet and contemplates what to do. He's cursing me in about 5 different kind of languages, including sign language, and at this point all I can do is sit there and hope he calls, but alas he does not. He reluctantly lays it down, and so does June in early position, and we take down this massive pot, profiting about 300 plus.
Wow, gross You have fucking 4 outs in the deck, hit both sides. Fuck me I crushed both
Ma, I call you.
What the fuck
I house you only.
What the fuck? I blocked. I have fucking. You know I have the 6 also, that's the worst part. Fuck me. No, I have dubs also.
That's why I don't. I'm very again of this.
What the fuck? The river is the worst, dude. Bro, what the?
Thanks, guys.
Eh no, here you only got 1 out.
I folded quads to you.
Any other card open?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
你有什么？
Because I know any other
He
card
hits me,
open,
he
I
hits
leading. No, as in
I'm not really good at reading the room. I'm not really sure, but it seems like Tekan is a little bit unpleased. But that could be just my mind playing tricks on me. I'm not sure. Maybe he's happy that I earned money. You guys decide for yourself. So that's about the end of the night, guys. We play about a few more hands, which I don't really get anything in. And we end the night on a positive note. So over to me on the drive back. What's up, my friends? It is now 4 a.m. I have just reached home. Yep, so the session was about I would say 5 plus hours long. Overall, it was a pretty decent session. I made $400 in profit. I was in for $1,000 and I was out for $1,004. So I would say that's a pretty decent win in my books, because you know, as I said, I've been on a pretty bad run recently. Like I lost quite a bit of my bank, not like some amount of my bankroll. So I'm glad to you know, catch a win at long last. Overall, I would say in the session, I don't think I really played that well. I had a few spots where I feel like I was a bit too passive, which I guess is my main flaw. But yeah, I would say one of the reasons why I felt like it was hard to maneuver was because I was pretty short stacked for the most part. I only bought in 200 at the start for like the first few hours, and so I didn't really have maneuverability in a lot of the pots that were like with people who were deeper, because like shoving my stack would not pose any threat to them, you know. So that was one of the reasons, which I eventually did buy in for more. Yeah, okay, I'm back home. Anyway, yeah, but overall I would say I ran pretty well, thankfully, and I think I made some okay, decent decisions in some points lah, basically. Initially, in the first hour or so, I was running pretty well. I ran it up to like, my stack was up like 200 or something, and then I just had like this 3 hour, 4 hour stretch where I just got like 0 hands. Not 0 hands, but I was not connecting, and like it was just very rough. So I was down to my low point about, I was down about 400. I then top my stack up to 1,000, and so that was 1,000 effective. And then the last like hour or 2 hours, I ran pretty well, I have to admit. I had a few like high pocket pairs which I got value from. I had a few double bought bomb pots which I ran well in. I also made some questionable calls in one of the bomb pot hands, but it worked out, so that was a huge pot. Yeah, so overall we profited 400. It's pretty decent, so I'm pretty happy, but it's a bit late, so I'm gonna sleep. I don't know if I'll be making another vlog, because I can imagine that the editing will be like so bad. It's like just like a lot of work. But yeah, I just wanted to experiment because yeah, I just thought it would be fun. I was inspired by lots of poker vloggers that I always watch. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. All my fans, my 7 fans at the poker table, as well as whoever's watching from my Instagram. Hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time, if there's a next time. Good night.